It was a cold, grey Monday morning in November when I finally gave up pretending I could handle everything on my own. I had been pacing the kitchen floor in my small rented apartment for an hour, phone in hand, staring at the name I never thought. I'd call for help, Jason, my stepson. The kettle whistled shrilly, breaking the tense silence. I turned it off, poured myself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table that still wobbled slightly on one leg. I wasn't sick, I wasn't dying, but I was drowning in bills, repairs, loneliness. Pride had kept me from asking anyone for anything for years, especially not Jason. He hadn't spoken to me in almost 5 years, but today I had no choice. My car was broken down, my roof had started leaking, and I had just lost my part-time job at the bookstore. I wasn't even sure how I'd pay rent this month, let alone groceries or heating, and as much as it made my stomach twist, I needed help. So I tapped Jason's name and pressed call. It rang 5 times. I almost hung up. Then, click. Hello? His voice hadn't changed. It was deeper maybe, more sure of itself, but still Jason. Hi, I said. My throat was tight. It's me, Claire. There was a pause. I imagined him blinking, frowning. Claire, he repeated. Why are you calling? Me? I swallowed. I wouldn't if I wasn't desperate. I need help. Another long silence. Then without emotion he said, What kind of help? I told him. Not everything, just enough. The leaking roof, the broken car, the job loss. I tried to make my voice steady, tried to not sound pitiful. I just need some time to get back on my feet, I said, ashamed. Maybe a short loan. I'll pay you back. Jason breathed in slowly. I see, he said. Where are you living now? I gave him the address. I'll come by tomorrow after work, he said, and hung up. Jason arrived the next evening in a charcoal suit and overcoat. He had always been sharply dressed, even as a teenager. Back then, he used to criticize the way I folded laundry or how I cooked pasta, but I chalked it up to teenage attitude. Now he looked older, 30, maybe 31, and very much like his father. Hi, I said awkwardly, stepping aside. He stepped in, eyes quickly taking in the small, cramped living room and the plastic container under the leak near the window. You weren't kidding, he said. No, I said quietly. I wasn't. He nodded and sat down on the old sofa. I watched him carefully. He didn't say much at first, just looked around and tapped his fingers on his knee. Finally, he turned to me. Why didn't you call sooner? I blinked. That wasn't what I expected. I didn't think you'd want to hear from me, I said honestly. After your father passed and everything that happened, Jason looked down. You married him 2 months after my mom died. I nodded. I had no defense. I had loved Daniel, truly, and I never intended to hurt anyone. But to Jason it had felt like betrayal. I know, I said, and I'm sorry for a lot of things. He stared at me for a while. Then quietly he said, You took care of him when he got sick. I know that. I looked up, surprised. Who told you that? A neighbor, Mr. Howard. He said you never left his side. I nodded again, this time holding back tears. He was my husband. I loved him. Jason leaned forward, elbows on knees. I don't hate you, Claire. I thought I did. For a long time, but I don't. My heart cracked open a little. I nodded, unable to speak. I'll cover the roof repair, he said. And I'll call a mechanic for the car. We'll figure something out with the job. The tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. Thank you, I whispered. Over the next few weeks, Jason came by often. Sometimes he'd bring groceries. Sometimes he'd bring coffee. Sometimes just himself. He helped me apply for new jobs, set up a budgeting app, and showed me how to appeal for unemployment benefits. He wasn't warm exactly, but he wasn't cold either. He was present, and something in me began to heal. One night I made spaghetti and garlic bread, just like I used to when he was 17, and pretended he hated my cooking. He chuckled when I brought the plate. You used to burn the garlic bread, he said. I still do, I grinned. It's tradition. We both laughed. And that moment, brief and bright, felt like forgiveness. A week later, Jason showed up unexpectedly on a Sunday morning. "I want to show you something," he said. He drove us out of town to a small building on a quiet street. A faded sign outside read, "Little Wonders After School Learning Center." "What is this?" I asked. "My company sponsors this place," he said. "Low-income kids come here after school, homework help, tutoring, snacks. But they're short-staffed. I thought of you." "Me?" he nodded. "You love books, you're great with kids, and they need someone just like you." I hesitated. "You think I could work here?" He smiled, his first real smile in years. "Claire, I think you'd be perfect." I started the next week. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was modest, but I felt alive again, reading stories to kids, helping them with spelling, watching them light up when they learned something new. It filled a part of me I didn't realize was empty. And every Friday, Jason would stop by, with pizza for the kids. The children loved him. One little girl, Mia, even asked if he was my son. "No," I said, smiling. "But he's family." Christmas was coming, and for the first time in years, I had enough to buy a small tree. Jason helped me decorate it, hanging up a few crooked ornaments from a box I'd kept in storage. As we hung the last ornament, a tiny silver heart, I said, "Thank you, Jason. I mean it. You didn't have to help me, but you did." He looked at me for a long moment. "You asked for help," he said simply. "That's not nothing." I nodded. "Still." He looked around. "I remember being angry for so long. After my mom died, after Dad remarried, I thought you were replacing her." "I wasn't," I whispered. "I know. Now I do." He reached into his coat pocket and handed me a small wrapped box. "For you." I opened it and gasped. It was a locket. Inside was a photo of Daniel, his father, and a picture of me with Jason at his high school graduation. I hadn't even known he'd kept that. "I wanted you to have it," he said. "We were a family, maybe not always a perfect one, but a family." I hugged him then, and this time he didn't pull away. The new year came, and with it more small miracles. The kids at the center drew me cards for my birthday. Jason visited every weekend. And one day, as I looked out the window at the sun shining on the street, I realized something. Sometimes it takes breaking to be put back together. Sometimes the person you think will never care again is the one who surprises you the most. I had asked my stepson for help. What happened next wasn't just unexpected. It was the beginning of something beautiful, a new family, a new purpose, a second chance, and I was finally home.